good, everyone? Colin Devane here. This is a piano course for those who maybe have some time on their hands right now and been wanting to learn this. Specifically, if you want to jam, if you want to learn how to kind of like improvise, communicate in non-traditional, non-sort of theory-based ways with other musicians. It should help you learn songs and memorize songs easy if you learn this basic system that I'm going to teach you. And think about music, I hope, in a way that frees you up to jam and to feel kind of liberated with your musical approach. Maybe if you've had some musical education before in the past as a child, they often kind of try to force you into certain molds and force you to learn this or that theory, this music theory, this way of talking about it. I'm going to kind of lighten up on that. I'll refer to some of it so you know what a note is and you know how to call them, you know, by their proper names if you want to do that, but that's not really the focus of this. So this course would be good for you if you want to jam with other musicians, if you want to learn ear training and theory in kind of non-traditional ways. If you want to build a foundation on keyboards so you can produce music, say, using computers, basically the keyboard is the main interface that's traditionally used to produce like drums and to produce other kinds of music, or it's a real easy, it's a handy way to do that. Also, if you're like a classical player who wants to learn more about improvisational type thinking, this should be helpful, especially the later sessions. You can breeze through or ignore the first couple sessions. But if you're a beginner, yeah, I'll teach you like how to sit at the piano, how to look at a keyboard and make meaning of it, make sense of the patterns in it. But yeah, so I got some later lessons if you're a semi-experienced player, even if you're not a classical player, if you're like someone who's knows something already but wants to take their playing to the next level, and learn to improvise in a more free way, or if you're a musician who's been on another instrument but wants to learn piano, there should be some helpful stuff in here, especially in the later lessons. Um, so yeah, it's not necessarily if you want to be like a professional classical piano player. It could be a good start, a good foundation for that, but that's not the aim of this. It's not aimed towards traditional musical theory necessarily. So, yeah, skip over this introduction if that sounds good for you and you want to just get started. If you want to hear a little bit more about my history and background and theory and why I'm doing this and what I think about improvising and keyboards, etc., I'll get into that now. So I think the purpose of jamming is this is what I want to help you learn if you're interested to be able to make stuff up on the fly that you and those around you ideally consider enjoyable and musical. Um, Most people are in the mindset that I can't jam, that's for other people. I see those, great people up there at Fight Club or wherever jamming, and that's amazing. And it is something to appreciate, and it's something that I think, having respect for and appreciation for is great. And at the same time, recognizing that humans jam all day, all the time. We have been improvising our way through existence since we started. And every time you have a conversation, every time you make up a whistle or hum something, every time you improvise a recipe out of leftovers that you have, and make it good, you're jamming, you're improvising. So switching that mindset from something that like jamming is something that other people do to jamming is something that I can do, I already I already do, is crucial. That's going to help you get there where you're like, oh, okay, I already do this. So it's just a matter of learning how to do it on this particular instrument, this interface, you could call it. Yeah, so that mindset switch first thing. And yes, of course, there's different levels of fluency, there's different levels of ability at it. So that's what we're going to talk about is how to expand your level of ability on this thing called the keyboard. Um, why do it in general? Why focus on developing the discipline of jamming and improvising? So I think you will be at once become a more fluid communicator in general, a more able, entertaining, interactive partner for those that you're talking with, and a more confident, self-actualized individual for yourself overall. On the problem-solving scale, if you know you can improvise and find functional and ideally even entertaining solutions to problems, then I think you're more adaptable in the face of any problem. You're more self-sufficient, but also more able to problem solve and interact collectively. and that's what improv is about, collective improvisation at least. And it's not just about being flexible to confront problems, although that is great. It's also, I think, about knowing that you can fill empty space with beauty and expression. And in doing that, I think you're living in your essence as a creator, as someone made in the image of the creator. You're able to make something out of seemingly nothing. So that's the basic kind of skill set and ethic that I think is behind learning how to improvise, that makes it an important skill set for anyone to learn across the board. All right, so how do I want to teach this to you? I think the first thing, as I said, dismantling this belief that you can't do it, knowing that you already do it all the time. And then we're going to learn through a simplified sort of three-part approach. How do you move? One, real simple, what physical actions are you doing? Two, how do those movements create patterns or follow or follow the course of patterns that exist or create patterns? And then how do those patterns turn around and move you? How do they emotionally feel to you and to others around you? Super basic. How do you move? How do those movements create patterns? How do those movements move you? How do those patterns rather move you? So we're going to break that down with this thing called the keyboard with its 12 notes. You'll learn about those and what that means. We'll learn this simple system of numbers that helps you think through and communicate with other musicians, but also just kind of think through these feelings. Like if you put numbers onto things or just names onto them, it can help you remember feelings and remember patterns. And so we'll learn a little bit basic kind of like numbering system of naming these. So my personal history, why would I be able to at all teach this? I was always drawn to music, whatever I was doing. I started playing some guitar when I was a little kid. My dad played guitar. He was like amateur, the kind of amateur who learned like tablature, so he never learned proper. He always regretted it too, not learning proper music theory and notation. But I don't think he was necessarily at a loss, because I would see him and the love that he had for music when he played, even if he's playing the same song that he had memorized from tablature for the 75th time, that year, he would get into this peaceful meditative state. And I saw that, and I saw him, stressed about work or whatever, these other things, but when he would play music, that would fall away, and he'd be calm and peaceful, and the family would often be together, so it was this sense of collectiveness and a sense of me seeing him, my father figure, be empowered and calm and peaceful, and all that combined with just appreciating, like, yeah, these guys are rad, like they're rocking out. Like I love, like, being as a little kid, we would go to some music festivals and seeing people together, eating, laughing, dancing. Like I just loved it. So yeah, I saw, I heard Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain, and I wanted to be those guys, and I took up some guitar when I was little. But I went to some jazz festivals with my my like grandpa, my extended family, and I saw these guys, and it was like the trumpet player was like leading the band, and I was like, Mom, I want to be that. And so when I was in, I think, fourth grade or something, I started playing some trumpet, and was always the kid slouching, you know what I mean? And even my fourth grade teacher, he's like, yeah, he told my parents, yeah, he's a jazz musician. He doesn't pay attention to the BS, but he loves it, and he gets into it, whatever. So I played fourth grade through like eighth grade on trumpet. Got a couple lessons. Wanted to be Louis Armstrong. Like I love the Dixieland jazz type vibe, and kind of just went a different path in high school. Didn't play at all. Was doing my own thing. Got long story, so to speak. But when I came back and it was a community college, I was walking by one day and I heard this music coming out of this room, and I was like, what is that? And I started peeking my head in. It was the jazz improv class. And I remembered, I was like, yeah, I played the trumpet, and I had a trumpet at home, and I just went and got it and naively walked up. Dude, if you know anything about the trumpet, you know that you have to play all the time, otherwise it doesn't work. Your face, you need to be, it's these micro muscles that need to be in shape. So I came in there sounding like doo-doo, speaking of it, just like farting all over the place. you know, like it not making sense. But I knew it. I knew I wanted to do it. I knew I loved it. It's something that was irrevocably just drew me to it. And the guy who's running it, real famous, dope guy called Tom Kubis, a ranger guy who's at Golden West College at the time. And he heard, oh, okay, he's going for something. So he put me in the beginner band. You know, he heard like he's got an intention behind that. And it started coming back to me. Started riding the bike again, getting back on the horse, whatever. So fast forward, So I get a keyboard from my mom because she sees, oh, I'm into it, for my birthday when I was like 19, I think. And Tom Kubis, he's a famous arranger. He's doing all these, you know, arrangements for Disneyland, whatever. So I saw him arranging, and it was just normal. I was like, okay, that's what you do. You arrange, you know, you put the horn parts, you write them out, you write out the piano part, the bass part, the drum part, even. You write out everything, and then you give it to the guys, and they play it, and then it comes to life, because that's what we were doing with his. So I was like, I want to do that. So that's how I first started playing piano, and I was like, you know, when you maybe learned how to play the keyboard at first, you're just like ding, 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 one finger. And I was just kind of doing that, but I was figuring it out. And I ended up, I was like, I'm going to do a tune. I've been going to the library a whole bunch, just checking out all the music CDs and ripping them, and all the jazz especially. But I was listening to some world music too. It was different, you know, branching out into other sections. And I heard this very amazing Nubian musician called Hamza El Din. And I don't remember if it was a particular song. There's one song that's super famous that I definitely loved, but it might have been just a whole album. I got inspired, and I wrote this song called Nubia, and it was my first song. But it was funny. It's a cool song. I still remember it. I still like it. But I wrote it out, and I used the piano to kind of plunk it out. It was my first time like figuring out, oh, what is a chord? Like, how does the melody go with the chord? Like, how does it down? And I was like, you know, okay. So that's how I learned basic chords. Just this desire. I had some musical knowledge, and I had the desire, and I was around people who were doing it. So I was fortunate to be in that sort of circumstance. And then fast forward, I get good enough. I'm rocking on trumpet. I'm doing my thing. I'm in a salsa band, and if you know anything about salsa bands, some high notes up there for the trumpets. I didn't really have the technique for that. I was just like, what's one way to get that done? Cram it on your face. So I started jamming the thing on my face and messed up my teeth and jaw, and ended up having to have surgery on my jaw for temporomandibular joint issues, TMJ. And it was bad enough that I chose to quit trumpet, and it was just like, you know, a lot of pain, and the strongest muscle in your body is your jaw. Anyways, long story short, pity party over. I spent about a year just being depressed, just like, and then I came back and was like, you know what, I know how to play some piano. I can still do that, and played a little bit in the community college group, whatever. It was just kind of like peripheral to me. But I was doing it, and I was kind of like starting to get into it, and then I started playing more, and I was doing this job where I was, long story short, moving a lot of stuff, like tons of stuff, literally, with hand trucks and different things, and moving all kinds of stuff. And I would bring out my piano, and in between I would be like practicing, and I was just overusing my hand, messed up a tendon in my hand, and that was basically out for another year, and I was just depressed, like, what? And part of me was just like, you know what? If I have a toe left on my body, I'm going to play music somehow. So I took up some bass. And during that time, because I could use just the first two fingers, and they were fine. It was the third finger that was funky. So I was just, all right, learning something. And a buddy of mine in Long Beach, great bass player, introduced me to this cat called Steve White. And Steve White played this thing, electronic trumpet, and I started taking up that. And all the while, though, piano was kind of like in the background, and my hand was getting a little better, and it was good enough. You know, it's still not 100%, but it was good enough to start playing again. And so I was doing an academic career my whole 20s. I was not doing music as like a career at all. It was a hobby. It was something I really loved and would never leave, obviously, but it was a hobby. And so by the time I'm in grad school, I'm like 27, 28. I just can't stay away. I'm like, I'm getting my school done, sure, but my focus is I started going to these jam sessions in Long Beach every Wednesday, yeah, at the factory with the famous Mulatto group. I'm sure many of you know Neon Phoenix, Eddie Cole, T'Challa King, Luke Skywalker, Marquet Fairley, Tom Terrell, some other cats too, but amazing musicians, like top notch, top of the line musicians, touring, doing all kinds of great stuff, and they were there jamming, giving back to the community, just having fun, being part of the community. And through another cat, I got to know about this and was up there religiously every Wednesday. And I was like drawn. I was like, this is where I need to be. This is what I need to be doing. Um, and was playing electronic trumpet mainly at that time. And then kind of just started scooting over to keyboards because it was less of a hassle to, I didn't have to bring anything. It was already there usually, and whatever. It was just like it was more needed sometimes too, because there's always a lot of horn players. But keyboards is great. You can play melody, harmony, rhythm, all the elements of it. So it has its own appeal, but it also you can gig on it more. Get more gigs. You can accompany yourself and sing while you're doing it. It's a very versatile instrument, and so that's how I started getting into keys playing, and then. A story for another day how I got out of academia. It was a very interesting situation, but was with the homie Kelsey Gonzalez, Lord Kelstro, shout out my G. He was forming a band at the time, and I was around and I was doing my thing and learning keys and getting better. And he was like, "Hey, come, he basically showed me, hey, you can do this. You can you can make music." And I think that's one great thing about being around so many great musicians, and Long Beach is blessed with them, and I'm sure there's great musicians the world over, so wherever you are, there's going to be great musicians around. A lot of the greatest ones are willing to, like intelligent adults don't dismiss children when children are talking to them. They're not like, oh, I'm not going to talk to you. Intelligent adults are able to converse and able to turn sometimes a childish meaning into an adult meaning and vice versa, and make that transition. So the mulatto cats I was talking about, Kelsey, they all were able to see potential, right? And I don't feel like I've lived up fully to my potential, but I was around, and I encourage you to get around when this whole coronavirus thing is over. Get out there, get to some jam sessions. Create your own if you don't see one around you, but they're out there. They're at churches after hours. They're at restaurants, bars, colleges, coffee shops, open mics, drum circles, etc., etc. There's people out there who want to make music and who collectively get together to do that everywhere. So the first thing to start is just like this desire to be a part of it, and then in awareness of and respect of other people who are doing it and who have put in the work to be really good at it, great, but also an acknowledgement that like I have something to contribute to, and doing that humbly and doing that respectfully, is important, but not being afraid to just do that. Know you have something to contribute. That's what's gonna set you up for, like going down a journey where you can actually make this keyboard stuff make meaning, make collective social meaning, get into the world. I think that's how at least I started jamming. And then you can go other routes, and they will all support your ability to jam, i.e., playing behind choirs, learning sheet music, learning off of that way, learning ear training yourself, learning learning to play songs, learning to accompany yourself, learning technique. All these things are going to help support your ability to jam better. Just like you having a better vocabulary supports your ability to converse with people better. So yeah, that's basically it. Those are my whys, why I think it's important, why I do it, how I've come to it, what I know. I think for you, asking yourself why you want to do it is the first thing. Why are you attracted to making music? What do you hope to do with that? Those two questions crucial. If you can confidently answer those to yourself, I think studying the hows will be all the more powerful. And I can definitely help in my small part or big part with the hows. I'm going to show you my hows. But you getting those whys in place is going to set you with a solid foundation. So yeah, thank you for anyone who did listen. I'm stoked to share what I know and see you grow, and let's go.